Hey everyone, welcome back to the fourth episode of the Empty Cup Podcast. Today we're talking about the warrior versus the social mindset. I'm joined by two very special guests. We got Nathaniel back again.
What's up, guys?
And we got a new guest, Otis. Thanks for being on the podcast.
Hey, it's my pleasure.
Yeah, we just bring in people off the street. That's actually kind of how we met.
Yeah, we just met like I was in a grocery store. We were just walking around.
No, it's a small world, and apparently you met him before too.
Yeah, crazy coincidence. I recognized Nathaniel when I was watching the first episode, and I was like, I know that guy, and he served me at like California Pizza Kitchen a couple weeks ago.
Yeah,
so
that's crazy.
Yeah, funny story.
Yeah. So I don't know if you want to like introduce yourself, tell the viewers a little bit about.
Hey everybody, my name is Otis Miliareta. I'm a student right now in Atlanta. I'm going to be at Georgia Tech very soon, so joining you guys. And I mean, I'm just passionate about a lot of things. I'm a serial hobbyist, as I like to call myself. I like a lot of different things, so I have a lot of different things I can talk about. But I'm passionate about entrepreneurship. I'm a business owner. And I also just, work part-time, just live a normal student life.
Awesome. Yeah, so I guess we should define these kind of warrior versus social mindset. For me, at least, the warrior mindset is where you're focusing on basically your goals that bring you towards success, and whatever that means for you in terms of success, that's up to you. But really, you're talking about like your financial goals, your physical goals, maybe even your social goals. And basically you kind of focus on that. It's not exactly like monk mode. I like to say that monk mode is a very niche extreme of the warrior mindset. Mm-hmm. In case you don't know, monk mode is, do you want to explain what monk mode is? You probably have
monk mode is like a thing coined by a prominent like young entrepreneur named Imam Ghazi. Might have butchered that, but the whole idea is to pretty much, it's like a super intense, you only do it for like 21 to like 60 days at a time. It's just a super intense period of focus. You pretty much cut everything out of your life that's not contributing to like your goals or your business or whatever. It's usually within like the entrepreneurial world that these are the types of people that will do it. So it's a very, very like intense or extreme, I guess, version of like the warrior mode that we're going to talk about.
Awesome. Yeah. So that's the warrior mindset. On the other end, the social mindset for me is really focusing on what brings you happiness. And while I don't think those two things are separate and you can't be on both, honestly, I think the best version of life is one where we find the best of the warrior mindset and the best of the social mindset and are able to live both of those lives. But I guess the social mindset has a variety of different things. You could be a complete degenerate on the social mindset, just partying all the time, like focusing on social experiences. Or you could also just be like going to the gym, talking to people there, going on hikes, being outdoors a lot, meeting people there. And I think that is a very healthy form of the social mindset.
Absolutely.
We can just get into like, where do you guys think you are on this like whole spectrum now? Like, are you 100% one way, 90% one way? I don't know.
Well, I guess I'll start. I definitely find myself more on like the warrior side of things now. I think I've become a little bit more driven with what I want to achieve. In the last couple of probably 6-7 months, I think that's when I kind of like really focused in, became very serious about my goals. But I think like initially, I think we all young men, like we've all been kind of there where we kind of like are making an excuse for ourselves. Like if you're self-aware enough to recognize that you should fall somewhere between these two categories, you're probably self-aware enough to make a good decision.
Yeah.
But we usually say like, I'm a young guy, let me enjoy myself, have some fun. And that's when you fall into the other side, right? But I think like I'd probably say I'm pretty much in the middle. Like I'm here right now, we're having a good conversation, but I am very serious about my goals, very serious about building my business and achieving my goals. So I'd say I'm somewhere in the middle. I feel like I'm pretty balanced right now.
Gotcha. And like what? You said you're working in e-commerce, right? That's
basically it. Like, obviously.
And also you're a student too, right? So you got your plate full.
Yeah, and I'm working part-time. There's a lot that I'm doing on a weekly basis, but I feel like keeping my schedule busy makes me more productive. And
for sure.
It's more like a chicken and egg scenario. People feel like you're more productive, which is why you have a busy schedule. But I think it's the other way around, where if you have limited time to work with, let's say you need to set up an appointment with somebody or you need to meet someone to help further your goals or whatever it is, if you have a really limited schedule, you're going to do it as soon as you get free time instead of saying like, I'll push it up till next week. I have time then too, right? So I think it's the busier I am, the more productive I am. So yeah.
It's also like the better you feel. I feel, at least for me, it's like whenever I'm this is a tangent already, but man, this is a record time for a tangent.
Yeah,
but
first 5 minutes.
Yeah, when I'm busier, I feel like I'm just innately more happy with myself, just because I know I'm more productive. I guess it's like it's depressing for me when I'm being unproductive. You know,
I think movement is like essential for like living good, satisfying days, because just like a river, if you're just sitting still, you become stagnant and can become like very privy to antisocial behavior, depression, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and I think that's probably why we see such record amounts of all these things in our society today, is because like we've kind of normalized a sedentary lifestyle.
Yeah.
And sedentary
Yeah.
not just insofar as like, you know, being limited with activity, but also just limited with social interaction beyond what you find on the internet and like, you know, meaningful impact in the world, like we were talking about before we started recording. The whole idea of living is leaving something when you're gone, right? Because if you don't have any impact beyond yourself, then did you even really live, right? Like your life is really insignificant. So you want to make that impact somehow.
That's interesting. I mean, some people would argue that living is about having the most, like finding the most happiness and joy while you're alive, and like they don't care what happens after you die. You know,
I disagree.
I mean, yeah, I mean that's
we can talk about that.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, like I will say that I think at the end of the day, success. We were talking about success, right? And if you want to define that, you said that it was, you know, creating the most happiness, right?
Well, that's the social mindset,
Or-
right?
right,
Like,
okay,
that's just
okay.
purely socially speaking.
Yeah, well, I will say that is probably a subsection, right? Creating happiness. But I think the most pernicious part of being overly social, or like being on the complete opposite end of this spectrum, is the pleasure-driven mindset. Because happiness is one thing where, okay, you want to create some, like you can get happiness from fulfilling experiences, you know, working a solid job, like really doing things that are honorable, noble. But then pleasure is just entirely, you're basically just subject to vice, right? That's when you do things that are instantly gratifying. Happiness isn't necessarily instantly gratifying.
Oh,
You know
for
what I mean?
sure, for sure.
Yeah, I feel like there's a distinction to be made between pleasure and happiness.
Yeah, so I took this course in the science of well-being. It's basically a happiness course. I've told you about
Yeah,
this
we talked
countless
about it a lot.
times. But in that course, it's taught by this Yale professor. And in that course, they say that a lot of things that we think will make us happy are actually sources of our unhappiness. And those are a lot of the instant gratification things. I mean, things that I probably still do because, you know, to a certain level, like, I guess, like, I wouldn't 100% cut it out, but I'd like to minimize it. But, like, a lot of things that we do, like, you know, just watching a lot of TV or spending a lot of time on the internet, like, a lot of these things make ourselves happy in the moment, but in the long term, we're not doing anything, you know. And I think really that's what the warrior mindset is more so of, is focusing on things that bring you success, but in that process of gaining success, you bring yourself happiness because you're succeeding. You know, it's like kind of a win-win in that way, and I understand that. I think that was your point, right? So,
Yeah, I mean, to an extent. I want to hear what you like think success is, though, because I feel like we've both kind of like
I think success is finding a balance between, well, I'm just going to go off of what you said specifically because that's what's on my mind, is finding the balance between delayed and instant gratification. Because delayed gratification that's building a life. That's pretty much, you could call it taking care of your future self, versus instant gratification, which is taking care or pleasing your present self. And I think like absolutely, because I've definitely like been to both extremes of this warrior versus social mindset, and I think absolutely you should like devote energy, time, and your attention to delayed gratification activities that take care and allow your future self to be healthier, stronger, smarter, etc. But at the same time, like, life is meant to be lived, and if we just go about our days just like sitting at our computer working on businesses and just like goals, everything geared to some sort of like monetary success, then I feel like life will pass us by. Because for starters, we're not guaranteed like this average 80 years that we're told humans expect. Like we're all young here, but there's really no guarantee we'll make it through our 20s or to the end of the week. So it's like, I don't personally want life to pass me by. I want to, you know, smell the roses, to just enjoy like the mundane things of just hanging out with friends. Like earlier this week, I just went over to a friend's place and we were just doing random shit and laughing and having fun. And I honestly slept really well that night because I just thoroughly enjoyed myself and stuff, and nothing productive happened. Absolutely nothing productive. We just had fun.
You had a good day.
Yeah,
that's basically
exactly.
what it is.
Go ahead. Or
What
I
else-
want to
what-
finish my
oh,
last.
sorry, yeah, go ahead.
But on the other hand, I spent up until that was at night when I hung out with those friends. I spent that whole day with you. Actually, I spent the morning with you working on my business, like the warrior mindset.
Oh yeah, we'll get into that. Yeah.
Delayed gratification sort of thing, and then for like the whole afternoon, spent all of that just like learning different things and like planning, I guess, for the rest of my week and how I want the rest of like future months to go.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's like instant gratification. That's like quality social time. And saying that that's instant gratification, I think is wrong.
Exactly, I
That's
agree.
quality social experience, which is actually still like, it's not
I don't
delayed
even think it's a
gratification.
form of gratification
Yeah,
to
it's
begin
just-
with, right? Because at the end of the day, it's like, let's operationalize success, right? Because
Okay.
obviously each of us has a slightly different
I'm getting
definition.
really scientific.
Well, I mean, like, I kind of want to elaborate on what I meant when I was
Yeah,
talking
go
about success, right? Because at the end of the day, what I would say success is, and I think this is a good general definition that can kind of encapsulate what everybody believes, is you're fulfilling values that are based on what you find axiomatic, right? And your axioms are what, right? For each person, that could be family, that could be in, like creating a business that impacts the world, for example, right? Having that influence, and potentially for them, their axiom could literally be just pleasure. And so for some people, they define their success in living in that eternal present, like you mentioned. But at the end of the day, it's fulfilling your axioms. And I don't think that, a lot of us have that figured out. What do you find axiomatic? For me, it's family. So honestly, why am I building my business? Why am I serious about a business to begin with? It's sure you could say it's for a financial gain, a monetary gain, but
To
why?
spend time with your family.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's to create family time in the future.
Absolutely, I'm totally there.
And so you have to define your axioms before you talk about success. I think all of us jump into this chase for success, but it's
Yeah.
like, okay, is money success? Only
because they
insofar-
always assume monetary.
Exactly, and that's only insofar as the money can earn you what it is that is your axiom, your
Absolutely.
value. And so, I mean, like, whatever you find valuable, if it's family, that's great. Then that's what you're chasing. And I think delaying gratification for that, I think it's perfectly fine. Like that monk mode thing, I don't necessarily see anything wrong with it if it's what it takes to help you.
Oh
fulfill
yeah,
that.
there's totally a time and a place for that, and it is very effective at, I guess, like practicing those delayed gratifications to build the type of future towards being more available to those axioms, like you
Yeah.
said, that you
Yeah,
want
yeah.
to enjoy. I guess we're going on to a little like tangent side note here is that one thing I noticed in myself through applying that or attempting to like do that is a lot of like antisocial behavior start to develop, like spending just a lot of time by myself in my room, canceling on a lot of plans with
Yeah.
friends, like birthday parties, like actual like good things like celebrating my friend's life sort of thing. And yeah, I don't know, like I think it should be like there's a healthy dosage of that, and people should be careful, like or should be wary of like the negative things that can creep into their lives.
Yeah, I think it just comes down to what O just said is like it's based on what your values are, right? And I like that point a lot. It's, if your values are to have a family, to eventually support a family too, then obviously your financial success is with the purpose of that. And I guess before we get too further, I actually want, because I think O just answered where he's kind of more so aligned with the warrior mindset. We took a big tangent and then dive into it. But I just wanted to get like where your stance is currently, because I know we've kind of been through it together. We went heavy, not heavy monk mode, but like we've kind of reeled it back now a little bit, especially you.
So yeah, I think it's always great. I'll start with this because I think it's once you become aware of like instant and delayed gratification. I think you made a point either on the podcast or before. Once you become aware of it, you're therefore kind of like more inclined to act on it. So most people usually start within like the more social mindset and in like almost an unhealthy sense. We're like very much prone to giving into instant gratification because it's just comfortable.
That's also
pleasurable.
it's social norms.
Yeah, you're tempted to it. That's just how we are as humans. Yeah.
Yeah. So you usually once you become aware, you usually realize you're a little things can be improved, and so that very much happened to me. And I found myself, on the social mindset, very much giving an instant gratification, that sort of thing. Needed to make some changes. Probably swung too far
Yeah.
onto the other side. At least like one point that you made up is that people probably have like different tolerances to either side. And I definitely like found my tolerance on the warrior mindset side of became so engrossed with working on my goals, building businesses, working towards achieving space for my axioms in my life, that, like I said before, developed a lot of antisocial behavior and actually started like almost compromising on the axioms in the moment in order to like achieve some ideal perceived future of where those axioms will then have space in my life again. And it definitely, I would say, led to a lot more or definitely like fueled any sort of like depression or anxiety that was already present in my life. Definitely it kind of came back around and started fueling that and made it even worse. And then it became even harder to engage in the warrior mindset. And I kind of got caught in this loop of pushing further and further and further into the warrior mindset and making it harder and harder and harder to actually do it myself. So yeah, like Elvin said, went a little too far, and I've since kind of come back a little bit, just like you said earlier, just keeping myself busy. And it's not always with productive tasks, but I just realized I need to keep myself moving, just engaging with different people, doing and introducing novelty into my life almost on a daily basis. And that's just to keep the stream flowing. And that just creates like a healthier mindset, I guess. That's the word I was going for. So yeah, healthier mindset. And since then, I've honestly, even though I'm doing a lot more degenerate activities, just like hanging out with friends, going on hikes, eating, I go out to eat a lot more junk food now and stuff, but I'm actually like, in a way, more productive now. Yeah. Because I just am more lively, more energetic, and just more is happening on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. Well, I mean, degenerate's a strong word, but I totally agree with what you're saying. And that's actually like such a great way to like approach it, because like you said, that endless loop, that happens to a lot of us. Yeah. And I think that, I mean, some people call that burnout or whatever it is, right? But like, and when you said you went like really far into that like mindset where you're just going to focus on your goals, like what, so was that like fitness? Was that like, you know, like he said, you went really far. So what were you going after then?
It was mainly my business that I was working on. And yeah, it just got to a point where like, it was like, I would evaluate every single relationship in my life. And it was like, if this person is not actively contributing towards the success of my business, I want nothing to do with them.
I'm like, dude, I didn't know
that's pretty severe. But the thing is, like, you know, that kind of drive though is generally spurred on by like most people will find their point into like a period of that level of drive because of like an experience, a negative experience. Like I know a lot of dudes get into the gym because they have a bad experience with a girl, right? Like that's pretty much textbook. And so I guess there is a space for that because it helps you recover from those experiences. But yeah, it's definitely not like a lifestyle. It's definitely not something that embraces a lifestyle. So, you know, but I mean, yeah, like and with fitness, I was kind of in the same boat. I was lifting at pretty much 6 days a week, and I was like weighing every meal, and I did that for 1.5 years straight. Wow. And I definitely got to my best peak physique, probably better than I ever imagined I could have looked. I'm not there anymore because I've kind of reeled things in a little bit and gotten realistic about, you know, having social life, like interacting with people. Like this podcast wouldn't have been on the docket if I was still that person, you know? So you're so right about that, finding that like, you know, golden mean, that balance.
And you talked about this briefly when you were saying that you were focusing solely on your business, and I just thought of like the next question that I wanted to ask. That was, do you think in order to be successful, we're all like kind of entrepreneurs in our own different things? You with e-commerce, you with your digital marketing, and I'm working on YouTube. Completely different, but it's still business of sorts.
Thanks for the support.
Thanks for the support. Like and comment. Turn on that post notification. But my point was, or my question rather, is do you think you need to get on this warrior mindset and really go full monk mode to be like as successful as possible with these new businesses, especially as competitive as it is?
I will be honest, I think with certain businesses there is no half measures. And like, frankly, you know, like my parents are mentoring me. They're very successful entrepreneurs, and they talk about it where you not only need consistency, but you do need a period of like next level drive. You do kind of need to commit yourself to mindset that a lot of people are not willing to stomach. And that's just frankly what it takes. Because, I mean, being an entrepreneur, majority of people are not entrepreneurial. They don't possess that internal monologue that challenges what they would like. You know, like you said, when you become lucid to this whole dichotomy of being a warrior or being a, like someone who's just hedonistic or whatever it is, like most people don't even have that. They aren't lucid to that. And so if you possess that entrepreneurial mindset, frankly, it's like you do kind of need to commit yourself if you want that next level of success. But maybe there is, I mean, I frankly don't really think there is a way to be like balanced. Like you have an entrepreneurial side to your life that's benefiting you, but then also you've kind of got this sort of average thing going on. I think most people will give it a shot and then they won't commit and then they'll fall back into the average lifestyle. So I will say, I do think that it is necessary, at least for a period of time. It's not something you have to commit to for life, but when you're building your foundation, you do need to commit to it the next level.
What do you think, Daniel?
Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
I think going back to the term monk mode, I think that's absolutely necessary. And when you said specifically the foundation, like when you hear like successful entrepreneurs describe their story, most of them will talk about a time when they were like young or in their 20s or when they started out, where they are just completely on the grind. Like everything in their life is devoted to the birth of their idea. And so, yeah, I understand that there will be periods in my life where that will be necessary in the future to achieve where I want to go. I guess next time, based on my experiences, I will definitely I will be more aware of the dangers within that mindset and that space, and obviously I have safeguards set up to protect myself from the dangerous cycle I mentioned of falling into that.
It's kind of ironic how if you do go too far into chasing success, you throw away what it is that you were wanting to succeed for.
Absolutely.
But basically all of this is to say, Govind, you need to upload more. You need to go monk mode with this channel. No, I'm just kidding. But
I was going to say that, or I guess, I thought that, I don't know how you guys feel, but I think when you go too far with it, like you said, and you totally cut everything else out, especially all of the social aspects of your life, that can have a damaging effect on you. You know, you might look around and you're like, wait, where did all my friends go? You know, wait, who do I hang out with now? Who do I talk to? Who do I tell my success to if I'm actually successful? That's a big one, yeah. Like who are you gonna celebrate with if there's no one left to? I guess you can make new friends.
Well, I mean, that is a good point, but at the same time, then it brings you back to the question of why are you chasing success, right? Because if your success is, again, like creating financial independence so you can spend more time with your family, then you have your family. But you don't need to throw away your prospects of having a family in the first place for that success. It's like, okay, if I spend all my time building my business and then I'm like 40 and I'm like at this age where it's harder to find a partner, maybe I'm beyond that age where I can even have the kids that I wanted to have and have the family I wanted to have. It's like, you were a little too industrious for your own good. And so, I mean, I guess reminding yourself consistently, this actually gets to a really big point, is like, you can't like make one decision one day and then just go full steam ahead and not have to continue to remind yourself why you're doing what you're doing. Because sometimes you lose sight of it, and that's when what you mentioned happens. So you have to keep your goals in mind all the time, which is why people write things down. They put it on their phone. My wallpaper is my goal. So it reminds me why I'm doing what I'm doing, so I don't lose sight of it. Because they say you get lost in the sauce, right? Like you don't want to get lost in the sauce.
I don't know if that's what that means. Is that what that means?
That's
your interpretation.
I hear a lot of like online entrepreneurs say that, and that's what they're referring to. Is that burnout? It happens. Burnout. It's like you commit too hard and you get lost.
Do you think that's because they committed too hard, or because they lost sight of why they started this in the first place?
They lost sight of why they started in the first place, and I think that happens when you commit harder than you actually like. What's in your mind more is again, showing that you succeeded, getting it for maybe like you get I guess your mindset shifts to, okay, you encounter these people who doubt you encounter the people who tell you that you're not going to achieve things, and so your reasoning shifts from I want this success, I want to achieve these values that I have set for myself, my axioms, and instead it shifts to trying to please others, right? That's not going to work. So I mean, you're never going to get everyone to like you, and not everyone, and the people who doubted you, they're not going to be happy that you succeeded. So you're never going to please those people. At the end of the day, it's just a matter of picking what's important to you and keeping that in sight. So writing it down, but setting it as your wallpaper is a really good way to do that. Telling yourself every morning, counting your blessings, things like that. Having that routine is really important.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess the next thing we could talk about is like, where do you see yourself going back into like more of the social mindset as you get more successful, or what do you think?
So I will say
What's
that.
your plan?
Hey.
What's your 10-year plan?
So, well, I mean, I will say, right, I have very concrete goals for what I want to achieve. And I think, if I'm being completely honest, there's a certain degree of, pleasure that I've completely sworn off of for the rest of my life, pretty much. Because, I never really got to the whole party mode. I haven't drank. I am too young to, but I mean, like a lot of, let's be honest, right? We're in college.
Yeah.
So there's a certain lifestyle that people live. And, I recognize that that's something that a lot of young men have at some point in their life, but I've kind of already made the decision prior to even getting to that point. And so, frankly, I don't really see that in my future at all. So when you say like, once you reach your success, will you like kind of like go a little bit? Is that
Well,
what
not
you're
like
asking?
go, but like eventually you're trying to find a family.
Yeah, but that's very different from what we define as pleasure today, right? Like,
Well, it's not pleasure. I'm talking about like the purely whatever your healthy definition of the social mindset is.
okay, healthy definition. Okay, yeah. Well, then at the end of the
Okay,
day,
I can start there. What is your healthy definition of the
well,
social
so
mindset?
like the way you defined it earlier, I guess I synonymized.
like this, for example. We're doing this podcast.
Yeah, this
It's
this podcast is actually a great example because we're having a constructive conversation. We're building a relationship. Like we mentioned earlier, this is my first time really sitting down with Nathaniel and talking.
Yeah.
When he's not my server.
Yeah, besides giving him pizza.
Yeah, and same thing with Govind. We had a small conversation when we first met, but this is kind of the first time we're talking.
Also, yeah, props to you. I really admire that you're just like able to start a conversation. With
No,
a
man.
stranger.
Hey,
That's a valuable skill to have too. Like a lot of people, social anxiety today, like a lot of people wouldn't do that. I do. I've done it several times.
Yeah.
Like we talk about doing that all the time. Some of our videos, but
Yeah,
that's a good skill. Sorry.
Yeah. Hey, no, thank you, man. It's about not taking yourself too seriously,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
For real.
but
Amen.
but yeah.
At the end of the day, you're just talking to another human being.
Exactly. And if frankly, it's like I think being unapologetic. This might be a bit of a tangent, but
That's all right.
I've been at a certain point. Like, there's been points in my life where I'll have an acquaintance, someone I know and I really like. Maybe I think that they're really cool and I want to get to know them more. And a lot of times we'll say, "Hey, I want to hang out with this person," but I'm not close enough. I don't want to ask because they might be like, "Oh, well, we just know each other. We're not friends." Like, so we're afraid of that rejection. But frankly, it's like there's nothing wrong with me wanting to hang out with someone and get to know them more if we're just acquaintances.
Absolutely.
So I might as well ask. And if they're like, "Yeah, we're not really friends like that. I don't really feel like hanging out." Okay, big deal.
In the same spot.
Yeah, it's just, and it's a human thing to want to get to know people more. So again, not taking yourself too seriously, not being afraid of, putting yourself out there, being unapologetic in what it is that you want to do, which is build relationships. But again, that all kind of goes into a different angle. But all I need to say is that social aspect, like you said, the healthy definition. For me, I'm a pretty traditional guy. I'm a very simple dude. So I don't really think I'm ever going to be that party person. And I know a lot of young men have that, and that's fine. That's okay for them. But that for me is not within my healthy, I guess definition. But personally, I think for me, my 10-year plan, like you mentioned earlier, is I want to reach a certain point in my business where I'm financially independent, and it's because I want a family. And it's honestly, this is something that a lot of young men don't say, but the only reason I care about anything is because I want a family. If I wasn't going to have a family, a wife and kids at some point in my life, I wouldn't care about anything because at the end of the day, it's like, what does it matter how the world is? What does it matter how I am if I'm not really influencing someone that profoundly? So it's like the reason that any of us care about politics, we all have our own reasons. The only reason I care about politics is because I want my kids to have a certain world to grow up in. If I wasn't going to have kids, I wouldn't care what's happening in the world. So that's my value. Family is my value. And so my 10-year plan is I want to be financially independent. I want to have a family. And that's what my life's going to be about.
You didn't really answer my question.
Oh, well,
That was a great.
I was like,
what is your
That
like?
was a great antidote, though. Almost inspiring. Just want to say that.
wait, so
My
okay,
question was like, what are like healthy social things that you like to do? Like,
Oh, okay. Well, I guess I lost sight. Sorry, guys.
that's all right.
What are some healthy social things I like to do? Well, I like meeting people, right?
Uh-huh.
I like doing things like this. Like you saw me the first time we met, I was having lunch with somebody. That was the first time we sat down and talked, just like this. And so I was getting to know somebody. I met them somewhere, and they actually approached me. We had a great conversation, and I wanted to sit down for some lunch. So I like connecting with people, having conversations. That's something I like to do. And like I mentioned at the beginning, I'm a serial hobbyist. I have a lot of hobbies that I like to engage in. So
You care to show and tell?
Well, I'm not a singer, so I'm not going to sing for you guys or anything. I'm not going to dance either. But no, I like to play the guitar. I like to. I actually really enjoy. Like, I really appreciate television. So I was an actor for a while, and I really like film. So I like watching good movies.
We could get.
Dude,
into,
yeah, we could talk about movies. I could talk about movies
We'll watch that later.
but yeah, those are some really healthy things that I think like are in moderation. You can enjoy. You can enjoy things. I mean, you can see a movie every now and again. You don't have to abandon everything. But at the end of the day, it's like,
and at least in your idea, that's
yeah, sure. I mean, that's basically where I draw the line. I don't really go to parties. I don't think I don't enjoy that sort of environment anyways. I've been to a few parties, and with or without alcohol, it's just not like my thing. Even if people will tell me like, you need to drink, loosen up. It's like, I don't think that's really going to be, and I mean, frankly, it's for me, it's very simple things that I enjoy, but I have my goals. So
gotcha.
Yeah. What about you guys?
You can go ahead.
What is a healthy interpretation of social life?
Yeah.
I'm figuring that out, actually.
I think we're always figuring it out.
Yeah.
I guess I can answer for the both of us that when we first found this whole like self-improvement niche on YouTube, we like kind of went hard with it. We both. I mean, I guess I was already interning, so I was sleeping at like 9 o'clock, waking up at 5 a.m. So I didn't have like a lot of time to go to social events other than like going to the park with you. That was it. We went to the parking lot. That was like really, I don't know. Like,
it was a good time.
You get good admiration for nature, and it's like it's nice to enjoy the simple things, which a lot of people take for granted, especially living in the city.
Oh, yeah,
so many students take the city for granted, because they're so caught up in school. But that's a whole other side tangent. And so I guess when we first started, we were really like into like not necessarily monk mode, but we were kind of staying away from all these instant gratification things. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I was still like addicted to my phone. Like I still kind of am. Still getting over it. The phone time is going down.
Yeah.
But we could actually get into that later. But
the time limits are useful, by the way.
Yeah. But I think we've kind of relaxed on it a little bit. We realized that we still want to, like I'm in a fraternity now, I still value a lot of the friendships I've made there and hanging out there sometimes. Obviously, I don't want to go too overboard with it. And so now I'm at the point where I can go to a social event, go to a party time to time, but I still have my priorities in check. I still know that I got to wake up early, go to the gym. We have we want to talk about that now, our 2-hour, our productivity session.
Love that.
I think you should, it was really your idea.
Yeah,
You should talk about it.
So yeah, I just thought we were both, Go and I struggling to focus a little bit due to a phone addiction, kind of. And so I was like, shoot, what can we do to help each other besides just harping on each other each time we see each other? What can we actively do to get each other to focus? So I just had this idea, because actually the idea came from Govind talking about how he was struggling to, now that he doesn't have work anymore, like a scheduled thing to go to in the morning, he was having a hard time waking up early to go to the gym. And so I was like, okay, and I was having a hard time getting going in the morning too, because I just have nothing scheduled, nothing to nothing to show up for, if that makes sense. And so I was like, okay, I have an idea. Let's agree to meet at the library, say at 8 or 9 o'clock. That's when work starts, generally speaking. So that way Govind has something on his schedule that he has to be at, so he gets up to go to the gym on time, and I have something.
So, that's smart.
Yeah, and then I have something to get out of bed for too. I have someone counting on seeing me, and we made it. And I want to be very serious about this. I don't want this to be something we do for a week and we feel great about, and then it sizzles out.
Yeah.
I'm let's do something that works and then that we can do consistently. So I made it so that we have actually money wagered on this every morning. So if either one of us is late, so right now, usually the set time to show up is 9 o'clock. Today was 10 o'clock, but usually it's 9 o'clock to show up. Govind will reserve a room at the library, so we'll have a private room like this one right here, where we don't have any distractions, nobody's walking by or bothering us and stuff. And so the first penalty is being late. So for each penalty, we pay each other $10. So if you're 1 minute late, it doesn't matter. You're 1 minute late, owe each other $10.
It's been very close on my side.
This man is showing up at 8:59.
Well, no, I went to get coffee and I was running back.
And then so we do the Pomodoro technique. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
So I'll explain real quick. So the Pomodoro technique is where, and you can do different time increments, but this is the one we do. So we do 30 minutes working. So 30 minutes, no distractions, no talking to each other, no bathroom breaks and nothing. You're just intensely focused on your work, 30 minutes. And then you take a 5-minute break and you can do anything you want during this 5 minutes. I'll usually get up, walk around the room, just throw my arms in the air, get the blood moving and stuff. Sometimes we'll go to the bathroom, sometimes we'll talk about stuff, and then boom, next 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And so you do 30 minutes, 5-minute break, 30 minutes, and then a 10-minute break. And so yeah, it's just like the 10-minute break is the halfway point.
Yeah.
And so yeah.
So you guys are like committed for like 2 hours.
Yeah. And so yeah,
actually 3 hours total.
Yeah, usually about 3 hours total, but 2 hours of intensely.
That's not 2.5. Yeah.
2 hours 20 minutes if you
Be specific.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
But yeah, so then it's 10-minute break,
36.
another 30-minute session, a 5-minute break, and then another 30-minute session. So that's
Okay.
why we start our morning every weekday, at least so far, of 2 hours of intense focus on either school, my business, the YouTube channel, or just like journaling, reading, anything that is like a very productive activity.
Yeah, that's sweet. It reminds me of the SAT, how they do that, right? You got like, you do your section for an hour and you got your breaks. But
Yeah.
I mean, no, that's that's a really cool productivity tool. I mean, like, and so this is called the Pomodoro technique, you said?
The Pomodoro technique,
Okay,
yeah, and
cool.
it's a technique. I think it's coined by some dude named Pomodoro.
I would
but
imagine,
it's
yeah.
a technique
Oh,
so
yeah,
that
it is.
because technically, like if you get into like the whole neuroscience area, they talk about how you can really only like intensely focus for
Right.
so much at a time
Yeah.
for so long each day.
Yeah.
And so usually it's about 20 to 30 minutes at a time for 2 hours total
Mhm.
of intense, like focused deep work. I don't know if you've heard the term deep work yet.
I have heard that term, yeah.
So that is essentially what we're doing. We're trying to start our day off with 2 hours of deep work.
It's
That's-
actually 25 minutes. 30.
Oh, you guys have to rework that.
Damn.
Well, like I said, it's open to interpretation on how long you want the
You
time.
know what's actually kind of
to be.
interesting that I've noticed so far is that by the time that the timer rings is like when I actually get really into that deep work I'm set. And then the timer rings, I'm like, shit, my concentration's gone.
Yeah.
So honestly, I'm thinking like, should we have done it longer? But then that's
We can
all-
always work up to it. Like
Yeah.
we've only done this.
That's true.
We've done this about like 2 weeks, two
Yeah,
weeks
yeah.
so
And
far.
hey, that's-
and we're
that's
figuring.
still
And we
Yeah.
both noticed like either the first session or the last couple sessions, it's just it can get brutal. Like you're
Oh yeah, like
you get so
your
distracted.
focus muscle is
I just
being
like want to
pushed
reach
the
for my
limit.
phone.
That's the
Like the
thing
muscle
too. It's
memory
like,
is like.
it's honestly, I mean, obviously I don't have this sort of like group going on, but yeah, staying productive and not like, it's crazy how many distractions are around you, dude. Like even if you're working on a computer, like that alone is just like, okay, well, how am I supposed to get work done when there's like all my bookmarks on YouTube and Instagram? It's like, yeah, like it's frankly, it's just about making a decision and like committing to it, like you guys have done with this
Yeah.
process, right? Because even in and of this, like this itself is a decision that you had to make, right? Like getting to that point requires some level of discipline, and then showing up every single morning for 2 weeks, like that's definitely a level of discipline, and that's difficult for a lot of people. But obviously, it takes time to work up to it. But
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Because I would say, especially like the first few days, like 20 minutes into every session, it's like my brain was struggling so hard to keep working. Like
Yeah.
I just felt the pull of my phone,
Yeah.
the pull of going on Instagram,
Not having
looking
a
at my
conversation
emails.
with each other
Yeah,
too, I would imagine.
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean,
We're working on that
We're
one.
still we still do that because like there'll be times where I want to get his feedback on something. I'm
Yeah, when we're
Okay.
talking about business, like we try to
like today even like our session was like
was-
kind of a little bit more fluid than like the set times because
Yeah.
we were just purely talking about the script and like
Yeah,
talking
the
about like
podcast, yeah.
monk mode and like
But-
how we wanted to find things. But yeah,
But usually, like the way we have it set, I talked about these penalties and paying each other $10. We actually like sit next to each other and have our laptops facing each other just slightly, and like we just just glance back every now and then.
Yeah.
Because like if we catch each other like looking at Instagram or just playing on our phone, it's like, oh, that's $10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's not even the fact that like I'm scared about getting caught. It's also just like now that I know that this. Like I don't have to think. I don't like constantly think about it. It's just like I know it's wrong now at this point.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? I don't know if I explained that right.
Well, we
Yeah,
always
yeah.
know it's wrong, but like you're not only are you gonna let yourself
No,
down,
it's
but
not
you're gonna
like
let the person.
The
next
good
to
thing
you
is I'm not like
Yeah.
constantly worried about like, oh, he's like watching me because we're really not. We're really trying to pay
Yeah, 'cause
attention to the
we're-
work we're
yeah.
doing, But like it's the idea that there's someone there. It's just like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm accountable to this person rather than he's like staring at me.
And
all
I guess
day,
it's also kind of judgment free to an extent because it's like you guys know each other to a
Yeah.
pretty significant degree. So it's like it's not like there's someone that you're worried about. Like, oh my gosh, they're gonna think I'm like completely lack discipline if I take a look at
Yeah.
my
No,
phone.
we know we're pretty terrible. That's why we did this
No,
together.
exactly right.
We
Exactly.
started at the same level.
I think having other people to keep you accountable, like there's a balance there, right? Because like you definitely want to loop other people into your goals so that you think of them whenever you maybe fall short. You're like, okay, well, I gave them my word I was going to keep this up. But then at the same time, it's like you don't want to tell anybody and everybody because then the moment let's say something you do fail somehow, those people don't respect you enough to, like be reasonable about that failure. They'll maybe call you names. They'll maybe like tell you like, yeah, I knew you were going to do that. And then that's what you don't want to share your plan with everybody, right? Because then when let's say you do fail, it hurts your self-image. So it's like you want to keep specific people in your circle who you're being accountable to.
I guess, but I feel like all this like making fun of people like that is it just comes from a level of insecurity in some sort. If someone's making fun of you,
sure. Well, but the thing is, if it's because you failed on something that you told them you were going to achieve, then it hurts your own self-image, right?
That is true.
So it depends on who you're, keeping yourself accountable to. It's people who care about you, right?
Yeah.
Because then they'll help you, they'll uplift you, they'll help you, like they'll empower you, they'll help you achieve things.
Yeah. I mean, I think we like to keep a certain level of honesty because we both constantly admit to each other when we fail, and it's just like staying accountable to each other, like being like Jordan Peterson talks about this on, like don't lie. At the very least, don't lie. Tell the truth.
Yeah, because I mean, at the end of the day, it's like if you and the reason he talks about truth is because, I mean, he has obviously a very like dense way of speaking. Some people have a hard time. I had a hard time for a long time putting it together.
Did you read his book?
Yeah. So he has maps of meaning, which
I read that. Did you read that one?
I listened to a lot of it, but it just got it's kind of it's incredibly dense.
Yeah.
And I think he tends to like what's the word, pontificate. Like sometimes he'll just kind of like say things, and there's easier ways to express them, but maybe it's just because he's really intelligent and he has a good vocabulary. Pontificate, just, I mean, I guess I'm pontificating.
Expound.
Myself. Yeah, like just say unnecessary.
Annoyingly pompous. That's funny.
But like all I mean to say is like no, his 12 rules for life is a great book because it gives you like, again, when we talk about axioms, right? Some people get that from their religion, their system of belief. But when you go completely subjective with what it is that you define as right and wrong, then it's like, then you make excuses for yourself because you'll say, well, it's okay that I didn't do this today because like, it's kind of hard today or whatever. It's like, you need some rigid framework by which you need to adhere to. And that's what creates that, like, that's when you feel good about yourself because now you're adhering to something that's something else is kind of like, I don't know, like it's like you're not just kind of making excuses for yourself.
It's like a skeleton.
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
It's like your bones are always going to be there. They're like hard, rigid, and stuff. And like I guess your flesh, your muscles is more flexible.
Yeah, and absolute truth is something that's very easy to kind of accept as a important like kind of like part of your framework. Because I mean, anybody can say truthfulness is important. It's not like you know what I mean. So I think that's why people like truth so much. It's because it's like it's reality, right? So it's the most profound way of being, right.
Yeah. We've really gone down this tangent hole. I'm kind of reeling it back, trying to figure out what we were talking. I guess it was because we were talking about our productivity, and then we started talking about that because of, I guess, figuring out a balance. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, we went off the rails.
We went off the rails so hard.
I was talking about a healthy interpretation.
Healthy
of the
interpretation of
social
the
mindset.
Well, that was like a while ago.
Yeah. No, I think
I mean, if you want to ground us back, I mean, you had some really good topics that you kind of outlined to me. So I mean,
we'll get back into it. I guess I wanted to say that I guess it's supposed to be a struggle, right? It's not supposed to be easy. This whole idea of finding that balance.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's kind of like the beauty of life in a way. Is this getting cheesy? I don't know.
Well, no. Right. Say love the journey, right?
Love the journey. Yeah. I mean, if it was easy, then like I don't know.
It wouldn't be worth.
Yeah, we wouldn't enjoy it.
That's why.
Especially when you are successful, you wouldn't be like, oh.
Yeah, that's the most significant.
That,
The most significant things come from delayed gratification, which is difficult. I mean, I don't want to get too like, I guess like, maybe not religious. I'm not talking about religion here. I mean, I will, but the whole point is like every single religion they talk about. They always have this fixation on like afterlife, right? And basically what they're saying is that not only are you delaying gratification in like within your life to achieve meaningful things, you're delaying the gratification of life for something beyond.
Yeah.
So that tells you that delayed gratification is an incredibly profound like human thing because they say like in every religion they give you something things you should adhere to for something meaningful beyond the life that you literally think is everything. Right? So they're literally telling you to delay the gratification of life itself, which is, I think, something that's really like, that's why delayed gratification, I think, is something that's so meaningful.
Does every religion have an afterlife?
Maybe not every religion, but I mean, think about it, all the Abrahamic ones do, and Hinduism, I think, talks about ending the reincarnation cycle. So they're talking about that too. So, I mean.
I don't think Buddhism does.
But I don't think that's considered necessarily
I think
religion, because you're not worshiping a deity. Exactly, right?
Yeah.
So. But I mean, that's why I think it's a very universal truth.
I just made a connection between how you're talking about the afterlife versus you said earlier, like making an impact on the world. Like if you didn't make an impact, did you really live at all?
Yeah.
And stuff, and how that just from like a psychological point of view, like because Jordan Peterson a lot will link like religious metaphors to psychological phenomenons.
He did a whole like lecture tour about like Christianity and how that relates to like a pragmatic approach to life.
Exactly, and that whole idea of the afterlife, that's almost synonymous with the whole impact you leave on the world in terms of like practicing delayed gratification and sacrificing for the afterlife, just like for the impact and the way that you'll change the world.
Yeah, because I mean the other route you can go down is nihilism, where you think that there is no point, right? And then that's when you end up like not really doing anything with your life. And that's why my favorite message from Jordan Peterson out of everything he said is like, maybe you won't be motivated by looking for like your goal and putting yourself on that path, but you might be motivated by looking at the path you're currently on and the hell that'll take you to. Right? So it's like maybe you aren't spurred on by this vision of success in the future, but look at the path you're on right now and say that if I continue down this path, where will it take me?
The idea that people like fear pain really more than they are like
and sometimes
pursue.
that's necessary. Reminding yourself that maybe getting myself on the right path doesn't feel like the easy option, but it's like getting myself off this wrong path is something that scares you and something that pushes you to do the right thing. But you were gonna say something, Govind.
Nah, I just want to hear where you guys were going with this
I felt like I
conversation.
cut you off.
I had a tangent tangents aren't like on my list of important things. Tangents are probably the lowest, but I still want to mention it because I want the attention of the tangent. And I was just gonna say I thought it was really interesting that like Jordan Peterson, at least from my understanding and several videos I've watched of him, is like even though he talks a lot about Christianity, he himself is like, I don't think he's
not Christian.
Yeah,
what he says is he doesn't believe in God, but he believes that God exists. Which people think is like
he's afraid he might exist. I don't know.
Yeah,
he believes that,
because
like he exists
at the end of the day,
or
because when he talks about God, he talks about what God represents. And God doesn't necessarily mean like this sort of like, okay, if he's not a Christian, he doesn't believe in heaven or hell or any of that stuff. But what he means is, if God exists, that means there is absolute truth. Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, when you can subjectively define what's right and wrong for yourself, you have chaos. Because you need to have some objective framework of good and bad to adhere to. Otherwise, you can just tell, like, if someone wants to murder, they can say, well, I believe murder is right, and then adjust it. So we have an objective framework that we all adhere to in society. And so he says that as an individual, you need to have, God represents an objective framework that you must adhere to. And that gives you meaning. Because without that, you just subjectively define that, well, this is okay, that's wrong, this is wrong. And it's like, then you make excuses for yourself, you never achieve anything because you can just justify everything that you're doing that is wrong. And so it's like, that's what he says. He believes God exists insofar as that creates an absolute truth to which he must adhere. That's what he means by that.
Yeah. So just to play devil's advocate here, I know we were talking about this a little bit. Like, do you really need, I guess this is a tangent still. Do you really need religion to have like good morals? Like, can you still?
This is a good question.
Because we are such like higher level beings, I think that we could probably get to a point where, if we didn't believe in, if certain people didn't believe in God, like they would say like, oh, like you can still have high values if you didn't believe in God.
Well, I have to ask you a question, right? So this gets to the argument.
That's coming from a person that is religious.
Well, yeah. So this gets down to the question of secular humanism versus religion, right? And the question is, you say that without religion, can you be moral? Mm-hmm. What is moral? Right? Moral means right.
It's not stabbing people,
Well, okay, that's something that it's really convenient. It's really convenient that we can all agree murder is wrong, right?
Yeah.
But murder is a very specific thing, right? It's like, and murder is like, yeah, okay, all of us can agree it's wrong because it feels bad to kill when someone is getting hurt, right? So we can all agree on that, from a secular framework. But there are more profound questions where you have to ask yourself, is this right and wrong? Like, for example, with your children, how you treat your children. Can you hit them? How do you discipline them? These sorts of questions, then it gets into the realm of, is this absolutely right or is this absolutely wrong? Right? Mm-hmm. Maybe if I hit my children, and some people say that, well, you should never hit your children. And some people say, well, it's okay in certain circumstances. And some people say,
I'd argue you could take that from more of a psychological perspective of like positive reinforcement, like based on all the psychological.
I'm sure you could look at trends, but there are certain people that have responded differently to certain things. And maybe that's
the whole process of parenting is figuring that out.
Maybe that's a bad example, right? But all I mean to say is this,
well,
right?
It's the one you brought up.
Sure. Well, all I mean to say is this, right? It's like what I believe about religion is, and I don't want to get into the God debate, but all I mean to say is morality, all that is right and wrong. Mm-hmm. And that has to be defined. That can't be something that changes, because if right and wrong changes, then is is every single decision you make only like pertinent to the time that you exist in? It's like then the question becomes, okay, well, you can't say someone is a bad person or a good person. You can't say anything is right. Everything becomes subjective at the end of the day then, right?
Yeah.
But there are some absolute truths. There has to be.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, again, if there is no absolute truths, you're not adhering to any objective framework for anything, and you're just subjectively defining for yourself what's right and wrong. You make excuses for bad behavior because it's okay by your standard.
This is a completely different topic of the podcast that we're not supposed to get into.
But I mean, that's just what happens. All I mean to say is, I think that morality I believe it comes from religion. You can be, by chance, because we all borrow morality from religion. We've agreed certain things are right and wrong, but that comes from religion. Mm-hmm. The Aztecs and the Mayans sacrificed their children to the sun god. We don't do that in our society today. Why? It's because our society today is built on a foundation of Abrahamic religion, frankly. America is kind of, all of our laws are based in that, right? English common law. Mm-hmm. So it's like, we've borrowed certain things from different religions to say this is right and this is wrong, but really it's like you have to have an objective framework, and I think that comes from religion. I think that you can't, as a human being, define for yourself what's right and wrong, because then you get chaos. So, but that's all I want to say on that, on the morality question and the God question.
Did you want to pipe in here?
To answer your question, what was specifically your original question?
I'm not even sure.
Something about
you said morality, right? What makes you a moral person?
I was saying like if a person wasn't religious at all, like they could still have good morals and good values, could they not?
Here's the thing, and I actually just talked about this with a friend this past week. I would say creating like a moral framework or worldview. Religion is like, say you want to build a website, it's like going on using a religion is like going to GoDaddy and using a template, GoDaddy, Wix, WordPress, whatever you want to use, and it's like a template that you can just kind of easily set up. That's, they pretty much hold your hand and walk you through the process. So a template to figuring out your worldview, your values, your morals. Going at it on your own is like learning how to code HTML and CSS and whatever. It's a lot more difficult, takes a lot more time. And frankly, even myself, I don't think have it in me. I think most people don't have it in them to figure it out on their own.
Well, I think when you say that, right, that's are you implying, are you trying to say that religion is easier? Because I don't agree. Because religion, I think it's actually easier to the other way. Because when you define things yourself.
Well, I just want to say, I'm saying it's easier to come to a better outcome
when you follow religion?
With the religion, because if you're coding yourself, all the learning process, you're just going to end up with a mess most of the time.
Sure, okay, I see what you're saying.
So I'm not saying...
But with like the hand-holding thing, right? Like that part of the analogy, right? Like, because I think, are you trying to say that following a religious framework is easier?
To get to a better outcome.
It's a basis, right? Like, what else do you have to go off of then?
What do you mean?
Not religion. Like what other values would you have to go off of? I guess societal values, but
pretty much.
But we borrowed that from religion.
Well, at this point, if you grow up now,
the religions developed at some point from something. Like somebody came up with the ideas themselves and wrote it down.
Well, that's what we think, right? But then they'll say that, well, God told them, right? Yeah. So if we're going to presume that they're right, that means that what they have written down is a message from something that is beyond us, that has the power to decide what is right and wrong.
Gotcha.
Right? Because it's like the whole message of people who are religious is saying that if we're created by something and that thing is divine and that thing is powerful, it has the ability to not only create us but tell us what is right for us and what is wrong for us. Mm-hmm. Because without anything beyond human being, right, beyond us, if there's nothing beyond us and we're here by chance, then there is no absolute truth. And more importantly, there isn't absolute right and wrong. It's all subjective, right? And so if you don't follow anything that's defined for you and you just do what you define for yourself, you're going to fall into what tempts you, which is the instant gratification. That's what I'm saying. It's like, why do we delay gratification? Because something has told us that you don't do this, but you do this for success, right? So you have to abstain from things that are instantly gratifying. Mm-hmm. And that's a framework that you follow. That's what religion gives you for your whole life. It gives you a framework to follow. Yeah. Versus subjectively defining.
Yeah, in Hinduism, it's the same. There's, tamasic, which like all the bad things that you should stay away from, mm-hmm. and then I think it's sattvic is like the higher end things that you should be doing, and then I think it's rajasic, that's like medium mm-hmm. things. And I think every religion.
Your mom's gonna judge you for that one.
No, she's actually. I told this to these Christian missionary guys that try to convert me. I was like defending my religion. I was like, And yeah, I told you about
I
this.
feel like evangelizing is a very weak way of getting people to see your point.
Man, I'm trying to read my book too in the library, and these guys.
I'd say, it's like we're rational beings. I think that the only way to get someone to subscribe to an entirely new worldview is to give them a rational argument for it. So it's like we live in a rational time. It's very difficult. I think evangelizing never works unless someone's really searching and
Such a
needs
big
something.
tangent. Oh my god.
Well, it's like we got to the God
We
question.
got to a
very
good
dense
point.
debate. Yeah, it's very
Let's
dense.
reel it back in. Actually, I thought of something else that I wanted to talk about is this idea, like, for all of us, we're both all straight men, right? Like, this idea of, like, when you're on the warrior mindset, are you still, like, talking to women? Are you still actively trying to have relationships with women? What are you guys' thoughts on that?
Go ahead.
I'll go ahead. So that was a big change for me recently. So back when I was like intense warrior mindset, it was like not going on any dates whatsoever. I even went like a whole month without like doing anything sexual with anybody whatsoever. And like part of, I guess, trying to figure out what balance works for me is like, okay, let me introduce, like maybe going on dates is okay. Seeing people is okay. Maybe, because for a time, I completely shut myself out from even having the possibility of having a romantic relationship with anybody. And so now, just like kind of putting that back on the table, it just, again, it reconnected me with like an axiom, like you said, of creating a family someday.
Yeah.
Because of course there's a time and a place, you have your priorities. Your priorities are different at different points in life. Mm-hmm. But I kind of almost like cut myself off from that axiom of family, and thereby, almost kind of lost like a reservoir of fuel to keep myself going and working.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, that's I kind of pretty much am on the same page. Like, well, okay, maybe a little different in the sense that for me, with my goals and the things that I'm trying to achieve, like for me, dating is like what is dating for me? It means finding the partner that I'm going to marry, right? Mm-hmm. And so, right now, like I'm not, and that requires effort. And for me right now, it's like it's not a high priority for me.
Yeah.
Obviously I want it in my future, so it's not like I'm never talking to people, and like losing my ability to communicate with women and all that stuff. But at the same time, it's like, I'm not dating right now. I'm not dating until I've reached my goal. And then afterwards, it's like, once I'm where I want to be, I'm secure. Then it's like, I don't have to worry about, I have to manage this relationship and balance it with my business. It's like my business is taken care of, my finances are taken care of, and I'm ready. Now I can put all my effort into finding the person that's right for me. So
I think it's almost dangerous to wait till that point, just because I think, for one thing, there's value in like relationships with women. You learn a lot about what you actually value in a woman, and you also learn a lot by just being friends with them. I mean, there's argument there.
Sure,
Some people argue you shouldn't be friends with women. That's like the radical side.
I don't think you shouldn't be friends with
No, I think there's a lot of value in being friends with women. There's a lot you can learn from them, and they're people at the end of the day, like just like we are, right?
Yeah,
so.
Let's not talk about them.
that's a whole other video too.
I'll come back on, guys.
We explore all parts of the internet.
You were mentioning Andrew Tate, right?
Okay, we're not getting into that today. I'm not trying to get canceled just yet. But I guess my point was, the biggest thing for me was like getting to understand what you value in a woman. You don't really truly understand that until you've like been dating and like,
because there's a part of yourself that you can only learn about within a romantic
I totally
relationship.
agree, and I will say this. This is kind of my prescription. I'm not, but like a prescription, not everybody is supposed to take it, right?
Yeah.
This is this is what I think works for me, and I think has worked for a lot of guys I know. Frankly, if you're young, like high school age, and you date somebody, like you're very likely not going to be mature enough to have a really meaningful, mature relationship. And so it's like, you're probably going to have really like negative moments. And when they say toxic, right? Like everyone is capable of being toxic, and because it's human nature to, say things that hurt people and do things that aren't constructive. So everybody, I feel like, should probably have like maybe a relationship at some point at that young age to understand not only what they want in a person, but what it is about them that they need to work on.
Yeah.
I've had that in my life. I had a relationship and I had a lot of negative experiences there, but I learned a lot, and I think that that's enough. Like frankly, for me, I think one bad relationship I think that's enough. and then from that, you spend years reflecting on that experience.
Amen.
Because you can reflection.
Wow, you guys are very similar.
I'll say reflection opens up a lot, right?
Totally.
And I'll say this one thing, which is something I've been saying for years. there isn't a single answer that you can come to just from enough reflection. I think pretty much every answer in life and about who you should be can come from just reflecting on the experiences you've had. The only thing is sometimes when you're in the experience and you're having these, your intense emotions and things like that, you can't think clearly. You don't have clarity.
Yep.
So it's one part of the equation to know what to do in what scenarios. It's another part of the equation to have clarity and execute on that, which is why you need a friend to give you advice sometimes, tell you things you already know. So I'll say that one bad relationship is enough for you to reflect on and come to all the answers. And then when it's time to actually, execute on the growth that you've done, that's when you need to practice mental clarity, being clear, not getting too emotional, being a rational person. And so sometimes that means, some people do need multiple relationships to practice that, but I frankly think it's like one's been enough.
One done.
Yeah,
I'm honestly torn because at the same time they're like, don't date when you're young, like in high school and college, like work on yourself, build for your future. But at the same time, you kind of need a reference point to know what it is that, which obviously to make mistakes, to reflect on later and become better.
A partnership is different. A partnership is very different than the kinds of things you'll learn from a friend. Like being with a girl or whatever, you remember, whatever. It's like, that's going to teach you way more about that particular relationship than, being friends with other people. Even being friends with women will only teach you so much compared to being in a relationship with one. So, because you learn a lot about the kinds of arguments you'll have and the kinds of disagreements that are important. Because this is one thing that I will say that I pretty much, I don't think anyone can change my mind on. It's like you need to match. You really need to have certain values that match. People really think that you can date over interests. You can have common interests. That's enough, sure. But it's like, that'll get your foot in the door. Maybe you'll start talking because you both like the same show. But that's not enough to carry you through a marriage, in my opinion. It's like, how are you going to raise a child if all you have in common is interests and hobbies and things you're passionate about? It's like your values have to be the same because that's what you inculcate into your child. You put into your child.
Yeah, absolutely.
So now I know what I'm searching for when it comes to values because I know what my values are. Family. It's like, so the woman I marry is probably not going to be, I don't think I'd have a good marriage with a woman who is passionate about working because I want to have a retired family that's completely, we spend all of our time with our kids. So it's like, I know that's something I'm serious about. So you have to have those. It's like, you might like Stranger Things, but that doesn't mean that you both are going to be great because when your wife wants to go to work, or my wife, for example, if she says she wants to go to work, if she says she wants to work, it's like, that's probably not the kind of woman that would be good for me because I want a picture where we're all, a family together. So it's like everybody should have those values concrete, and that's usually what one bad relationship will teach you, I think.
So you think, interesting, and this is what I'm just feeding off of what you just said. You think if you have the same values but no similar interests, it'll still work? I think
I think it's hard to get your foot in the door and start talking if you don't have any common
You'll develop the interest over time, though.
Because
you'll start to live your life. Start to live your lives aligned with each other.
Yeah, and I mean, you're not gonna that sort of thing again changes. If your common interests are like certain same type of music, it's like, how many times does your music taste change in your life? Plenty of times. Interests and hobbies change.
True.
Those things can eventually match, and you'll probably find new things at the same time together in that marriage, and you'll both love those things together because you built that interest together. But I think values are more important than anything.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, thoughts on that?
What was the question?
The question was,
you said the one point I want to make is you said one bad relationship will teach that. I'm like, it doesn't have to be a bad relationship.
I think it's, what do we define as a bad relationship?
If you're still, if the relationship ended, then there was definitely, I mean, maybe it wasn't a bad relationship, but something changed, right? Or some realization happened that you realized.
And I think for teenagers, young people like us, breakups are almost always that sort of like...
One thing I thought about...
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off too.
No, well, I'll just wrap up and say, like, a lot of these breakups that happen in high school age will be that bitter, breakup. It won't be, like, that sort of mutual, we won't match up. Yeah, exactly, right? It's like, this isn't a good match. It's always like, I hate this person.
I never want to see you.
What were you saying?
I was going to say, one thing I thought of when you were first talking is that, like, most people... our age, like younger, like older teenage to young 20s, like you wouldn't really want to date them because they're still trying to figure themselves out. They still have a lot of like, obviously there's, regardless of how good or bad you think your parents were, there's always something they missed that you have to reflect on, come to terms with, and heal from and grow past. And I think, it takes a little bit. It takes a few years to figure like yourself out, and you have to work on becoming a healthy person.
Yeah, that has to be a serious thing. Like, it doesn't just happen by chance, honestly. I think that's something that you have to take on as a goal, that you want to grow in certain areas. That's why we like self-improvement books, and like we like Jordan Peterson, because we've made it an activity to grow ourselves. It's not something that just happens. because then you come to find out that 10 years down the line you're severely lacking in so many areas of your character because you never bothered to take that up as a goal.
I don't know if I'd say I like Jordan Peterson. I think he's done a lot of good. I'm not sure if I agree with everything he says, but I think he's done a lot of good for
There's
young
stuff
men.
he says from like a psychological
Yeah.
I'll say there's very
Yeah.
little I disagree with him on. We won't go there though.
Again, trying not to get canceled.
Hey, I don't think I should have to worry about getting canceled for liking a guy and agreeing with him.
No, that's fair. I agree, but I guess that's a sad reality of our world, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, frankly, it's like I don't really care. I think.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't.
Yeah, I'm pretty. I'm pretty unapologetic with what I believe in. So.
Props to you for that, to be honest.
It took some time. I wasn't in a very friendly environment. I was in theater
Yeah.
in high school, so
thespian.
Yeah, I'm an international honors thespian. Yeah,
Whoa.
yeah, I did a lot of
Okay.
acting in high school.
Thespian.
Yeah, you get like
What does that mean?
there's different levels. It's based on this will be a very small tangent, but the whole idea is like depending
Should have
on the
tangent
roles you
count
get.
on-
Yeah, right. There's a little ding every single
Yeah.
time. No, but every single
Well,
based on the
same
roles you
thing.
play.
Yeah.
Based on the roles you play in shows in high school and all that stuff, they add points onto your like thespian, I guess like, whatever profile. And once you reach certain points, which means basically you've done a lot of acting, you've done a lot of theater, you've done significant roles, you get inducted into different levels, and that's
Wow.
stuff that can help you secure roles at events. You can perform at a national level, things like that in theater. So, that's the sort of thing. I didn't do any of the crazy stuff, but I did get a lot of points because I did a lot of acting. So, yeah.
Gotcha. I guess I never. So you're like you've said you're probably mostly in the warrior mindset area.
Yeah.
So at what point do you think you're gonna like? I guess you're not gonna step into the social mind. I'm not fully sure.
No,
I
I'll
understand.
so for me, social
Oh,
literally
plan.
means just like,
Your family.
enjoying those things and in the family. And that doesn't even feel like an indulgence to me because then when you raise a kid, what is that? That's another
Yeah.
job in a sense,
I
right?
guess my question was like, when do you plan on starting to focus on that on your family?
When
Or,
I
like,
have
finding your
well,
wife.
Okay, well, so for me, I mean, obviously things don't always go to plan. Life
Right,
has its
right.
way. But I think optimally, before I graduate college, I can secure a solid income that gives me support. If I have to go to get a job, professional income at a company for a few years, that's fine. But the intention is to retire early, and after retirement is when I want to get married and have a
When do
kid.
you want to retire, bud?
So by the time I'm 25, I want to be retired.
Wow.
Which I think is very doable and very possible, and it's something that my parents. Fortunately, I'm connected with a lot of leaders, and my parents who are there to help me along the way. So it's something that I think I can.
Okay, this is a whole totally different topic, but don't you think? Like, I guess you'll be doing different things, but like, wouldn't you get bored if you're not working after 25?
There's so many
No,
things to
that's-
do in life.
I mean, there are so
Yeah,
many
there's so
things
many
to do in
things to
life,
do.
but like you've been like focusing on your career.
Well,
Wouldn't you miss
business,
that, I
business.
guess?
So retirement doesn't mean that I'm detached from my business, and I don't want to get too much into the kind of business I'm building, because we generally keep that between us and
That's
the people
fair,
we're
yeah.
working with. But it's not something it's something that is for life. This business that I'm building is for life.
Okay.
So
So when you say retirement, what does that entail?
Where's that on your
where I don't have
priorities,
to be,
pretty
yeah,
much?
where I have enough of a passive income where I don't have to
Oh.
actively work. It's no more active income, basically, right?
Okay,
So the idea where I can step away from a traditional job and have checks coming in month over month, so I can live off of that.
Gotcha. And that's how your business works. I mean, you
Yeah,
talk about
yeah. I mean,
that's
people have that with real estate, right? You build a real estate
Oh,
business,
right.
you have rent coming in every month. So if you have enough properties, that's the same exact situation.
Oh.
But you still own those properties. You still are a landlord. So at the end of the day, that's for life, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Now maybe you could outsource that work to someone else, but then at the end of the day, there's always some connection you have to your business.
Mm-hmm.
It's very difficult to have a passive income to support your retirement while being completely detached from your business. You could own a big company too, like these, Bill Gateses and Jeff Bezoses and all that. They're retired from a traditional job, but they still have a role in their business. So that's basically what I mean.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, I think we're nearing the end of the podcast. I don't know if you guys have any last minute thoughts you want to get in.
I mean, I feel like we covered the entire gamut. We talked about everything.
Yeah.
But I feel like we had a good opportunity to this is awesome because it's basically like we just recorded our first conversation.
Yeah,
It's just
pretty
regular
much. It was a
This
pleasure.
feels like the optimal warrior and social mindset.
Yeah, and I think you guys are really sharp guys, and I'm really glad I met you both.
Yeah,
because,
yeah.
It's really cool to have this conversation, and
For sure.
meet more guys that have a similar mindset, very serious about achieving things and making their life,
Absolutely.
significant.
Yeah, and you just seem to know so much like random information on just a bunch of topics, like even like the mics, the camera, the audio. You just have like a bunch of
Like I said, I'm a
Fascinating
serial
guy.
hobbyist, man. Like I get really passionate when I get passionate about something. When I get interested in something, I
Yeah.
learn everything I can. So I might not be super excited about school, but I do like to think I'm a pretty serious learner. I like learning about things.
Yeah, I hope you're at least somewhat excited about school because you come
Well,
into tech.
okay,
That's,
sure, yeah.
that's gonna be.
Yeah, I'm aware it's
that's
a
no
challenging
easy
school.
challenge.
But no, absolutely. You know, I have no doubts that I'm gonna make it happen. I'm gonna, graduate with a great degree and have a good life. So, I mean, that's pretty much it. I think that kind of wraps up my mindset about everything. And you know, I think you guys definitely got a good taste of what kind of person I am, who I am. So,
Yeah.
It was a pleasure.
Yeah, hey, absolutely.
It's been a pleasure, guys. Thanks for being on, both of you.
Yeah, of
Daniel, of course. Almost a co-host at this point.
Trying to get there.
That's up to you at this point, I guess. No pressure.
Yeah.
But yeah, hopefully you guys are still with us today. But if you enjoyed the content, please leave a like and subscribe and hit that post notification bell. At least maybe I'll put a thing here. Hit that button. Catch you later.